N'Golo Kante is arguably one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. But do you know how good he is? Do you know all his abilities? Do you know his weaknesses and how important he is to the current Chelsea team? This is N'Golo Kante's profile. And to present N'Golo Kante's profile with me is my friend and brother, Helgi. Helgi, welcome to your first appearance on Chelsea Perspective.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be here to talk about my club and in particular about one of the most fundamental players of the last decade for us, who is nothing
Awesome.
else that
Awesome.
N'Golo Kante, who has been absolutely magnificent for years now, and I'm sure that I will enjoy this conversation and the analysis that we'll do of our
Awesome.
great midfielder.
Awesome. Awesome. And thank you very much for finding the time to be here. Before time you told me how busy you were, the run to your school and stuff, but it's not easy to find time, so I appreciate that. So can you start by giving us a brief overview of his history? The clubs is including the clubs he's played for, how he got to Chelsea and all of that.
So N'Golo Kante is one of those French stellar products that fortunately we have the luck and the opportunity to watch week in, week out in our club. He has played in the Boulogne Academy, and then from there he went to Caen, born with from a Malayan, if it's said in this way, Mali parents. Then he caught the eye of one of the clubs who really has proved to follow those French prospects, which is Leicester City, and N'Golo was acquisited by them. He signed in the summer 2015, and then he endured that title-winning season under Claudio Ranieri there, which was an exceptional thing. As far as I'm concerned, N'Golo, and what makes N'Golo signing really effective for Leicester and remarkable now that we speak years later, is the fact that he wasn't really Ranieri's first choice at the club. As I have read somewhere that they wanted.
I didn't know that. I didn't know he wasn't Ranieri's first choice, but go ahead.
No, he wasn't Ranieri's first choice. I've read it somewhere. They wanted, I think, Veretout. He's a player who now is in Italy at Fiorentina, if I'm not wrong. And they really wanted him. And then after they didn't manage to sign him back then, they turned their attention towards N'Golo, and it really worked. After Ranieri was convinced that N'Golo wasn't that kind of explosive guy who would go away of his position and not possess that positional discipline that he's really praised for today. At the beginning, I have read also that Claudio Ranieri was reluctant to play N'Golo in that center midfield role, so he tried to use him wide, only because he was scared that in that number 6 or even in a more advanced number 8 position, he would be afraid that N'Golo would go further away, burst into empty spaces, and this would leave holes behind for the opposition to hit them on the counter from a tactical perspective. But N'Golo proved that he was absolutely disciplined, and now he's one of the most enjoyable players in this regard. He covers literally every inch in a football pitch, and
yeah,
of course those phrases regarding his ability to be everywhere, literally everywhere, are not really jokes. They are absolutely true. That the joke like 75% of Earth is covered by water and the rest is covered by N'Golo. We joke about this, but this is absolutely the truth, and we have to be fortunate that we have in the team a player of such quality.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to give us an overview of his history, and that's good to know. Yeah, I didn't even realize that he wasn't Ranieri's first choice. I didn't know he was a second choice, and I never even thought about him playing out wide, like you said. Ranieri wanted to play him, but that's by the way. How about his current form? Can you take some time and talk about his current form?
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind now is unfortunately he got an injury against Liverpool. So it was absolutely a necessity to sign a new midfielder just because of N'Golo's frequent minutes that he takes over his shoulders. Because as I said, and as we all know, he's a fundamental player, not only in Thomas Tuchel's system but also for all the previous managers he has worked for. Regarding his current form, I think he's an exceptional guy. No wonder he won the UEFA Midfielder of the Year prize, was man of the match in both semi-final legs against Real Madrid, man of the match in the Champions League final. Even when, but his absolute ability to lead the team in his own way, in his own taciturn, in his own calm way, it's shown also when he is absent, as we saw a bit against Arsenal in the last 20 minutes of the first half, and then in the first 30 minutes or so of the second one, when they didn't really risk us, but it was a sort of tension in front of the defense, and there were some cases when Jorginho was struggling in one-on-ones in terms of the physical battle and asking for fouls um, caused by minimal contact, which in Premier League this is play on. These fouls aren't given. So it's exactly N'Golo's not only current form but his exceptional ability to be consistent, even though when he carries injuries, or let's say in another way, when he isn't 100% fit, that makes him the player that he is. So currently, I believe that he's at peak of his shape. Maybe not the physical one, but in terms of the tactical shape and the mental one, he's absolutely brilliant. And I feel that when a 60% fit N'Golo is better than many other 100% fit midfielders, not only in the Premier League but also in the world. It's not because we are Chelsea fans and we are saying it just to flatter N'Golo somewhat, but this is a reality.
Yeah, so that's great to hear. I mean, even though he's injured, the little that he's played, he's been brilliant. Like you mentioned against Arsenal, he was able to deal with the physicality that the Arsenal team. What I think what I saw was their strategy was to outmuscle us off the ball, to be physical, to be aggressive in their pressing, but it didn't work because, that's good to hear. Now, how about his abilities, his overall abilities?
Um, I think we just mentioned one, which is absolutely his ability to be everywhere, and not only everywhere just for the sake of it, but everywhere in the right place at the right time. He's a great interceptor, and we all know this. He's a player who can burst forward into those empty spaces. He can hold the ball very well. He can support the defense, and this is, in my opinion, a great ability of him, because I have never really seen Golo as a proper defensive midfielder, as a usual number six is, a lone number six, because Golo is clearly a player that wants to have space to run into, or even drag to the wide areas, and to to help us stretch the opposition back lines, even though he isn't a fullback. And this comes due to his universality as a player. He's that kind of guy which makes us think that we don't need a defensive midfielder because we have N'Golo. But actually, even Thomas Tuchel in the first press conference, I think before in his second press conference, so after the Wolverhampton game when he came, he said that he wanted to play N'Golo as a number 6, as a double 6. So in a pivot with Jorginho or Kovacic as he's doing now, rather than as a long 6 that Frank Lampard was usually trying to deploy him in, especially after Project Restart. That was something that I didn't really agree with. He's that kind of guy, as I said. He's so universal in terms of his positional awareness. He's so commanding, but not as a commanding leader through raising his voice and leading the team like JT was, but he's that sort of calm captain who will drive the team through his presence and also create a sort of disappointment when he is absent, because he's absolutely great to be in a team, and it's absolute champion. It doesn't know. It doesn't only show this with us in Premier League. He shows this with the France national team, and there is even more evident, even more obvious that when N'Golo is absent, even Paul Pogba doesn't have that kind of quality game that he has in those cases when N'Golo is next to him. And this wasn't seen only in the Euros or even when France won the World Cup, but in every game they play, he has the ability to build a chemistry with the other center midfielders, and this makes him an absolutely special guy. Even though he doesn't have goals in a frequent basis or even assists, he compensates this by his extremely hard work, his professionalism, his humble personality, and that's all. Everything else is redundant to talk about him.
Yeah, I think you make a great point right there in terms of people often think that he's strictly a defensive midfielder, but that's not the case. There's more to his game than just sitting back and protecting the defense. He's capable of creating chances. He's capable of taking players on. He can dribble too, but that stereotype that he's just a defensive midfielder is why people doesn't look beyond his defensive abilities to how he can contribute attacking wise. I think Mauricio Sarri was the manager who changed that because under Mauricio Sarri he was further up, and you could see that there's more to his game. We were able to see that there are more to his game than just protecting the defense or and on the Tuchel too, he's been adventurous. He adventures into opponents' half. He created chances. If you remember, was it the first goal against Madrid at home? He took on players. I think it was a 1-2 play with him, and good calculations from him before laying the ball to Kai Havertz, who chipped the goalkeeper. Yeah, exactly. Then Werner had to finish. So there's more to his game than just sitting and protecting the defense. And thank you for highlighting how he's been stereotyped as just a defensive midfielder. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, now, and this one to me, sounds weird to me talking about N'Golo Kante improving, but they say nobody is perfect, So if there's anything you think in the area of his game you think he's improved lately, tell us about it.
He's that kind of player who seems better and better every game, and I mean, if there is an improvement, you just said it actually, that he has become even more adventurous under Thomas Tuchel. This comes due to the tactical choice that Tuchel has followed, which consists of playing Golo in a pivot, but more advanced, especially we are in possession, than another guy who sits deeper, usually Jorginho when we play with Jorge and Golo. at that midfield four. But in terms of his if there is an improvement of him, I think there is his decision making in the final third. I think he's not perfect in this regard, but I sense at the same time a sort of improvement. This was seen. I will take that Real Madrid second leg game again as an example, but this time the second goal, which was really instrumented, orchestrated by N'Golo's ability to intercept and then lay the ball to Pulisic, who dragged wide and then cut it back for Mount to finish it past Courtois. It started from N'Golo's ability to be high up the pitch, to intercept the pass, to play, to give that pre-assist. So this is an aspect that I haven't really seen of him in its perfect shape under the previous managers. Of course, he has been at adventures. We talked about it at the beginning, that he loves to play even high up the pitch, to as high up the pitch as possible. Gianfranco Zola said something similar in a TV studio, that his the best way to get the perfect N'Golo on and off the ball is to play high up the pitch. But he wasn't as instrumental as he is now in this kind of situations. Even against Liverpool, he had the chance, but I think he didn't make the right choice in the first half when he could have played Lukaku. I think a vertical pass inside the right channel, and then Lukaku may have had the first time shot with his preferred left foot, and it would have counted as a N'Golo assist. But I don't want to go through a lot of ifs and buts. To conclude it in this regard, I think that N'Golo's decision-making ability in the final third, or just before the final third, has improved a lot since Thomas Tuchel arrived, and has added something extra to his overall game.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that proves this. No player is perfect. No player is perfect, and there's always room for improvement, and that's what great players accept, the fact that there's always room for improvement. And if you accept that fact, then you become even better. And thank you so much for taking the time to tell us how he's improved. Overall, what does he bring to the team? We have Werner for pace, Mason Mount's industry, Lukaku's power and everything, Antonio Rudiger's aggression. So what does N'Golo Kante bring to the team that complement all the skills that other members of the team has?
Absolutely, he brings that solidity. Even though he isn't a proper defensive midfielder, as we said, he's the kind of guy who will rush into duels to win first balls, second balls. Even though he is quite short in terms of, in comparison with other center midfielders or even attacking players as a whole in the league, and knowing how physical the Premier League is, it has been for a while. He's that kind of guy who will give his best, even though when he jumps high. We remember that the Champions League final, he nearly scored in the first 10 or 15 minutes after heading the ball, which went beyond.
Yeah, I remember that cross from Ben Chilwell.
Yeah,
he outjumped the defenders. Yeah.
It was Stones or Diaz. I don't really remember it now, but as I said, he's that kind of guy who completes the team through creating that impression, that genuine impression that a player of his quality can do everything needed that for a collective to win stuff. He's exactly that kind of team player who can drive you to success, as I said before, even though he lacks regular goal scoring or assisting. He is that kind of guy who does the defensive midfielder role. That we don't say we say that we needed we said that we needed a new midfielder, like all the Chelsea community. I'm referring with we, because if N'Golo gets an injury or he's fatigued due to lack of game time, we play in 5 competitions this season. We'll go to Japan in December. We'll consider everything. So we need a backup midfielder, but we are asking ourselves that do we need a backup for who? Like N'Golo is a proper number 8, just lacks goals and assists, but he can do everything else. And just because he's that kind of guy who provides the guard, the protection in front of the defense, and then he immediately goes forward, he goes wide, tracks back, he's absolutely tireless in terms of his consistency, his commitment, his behavior on and off the ball. And I think he completes the team just by being the epitome, the archetype of that perfect, hardworking, humble, always with a desire to improve team player. So from the technical perspective, we actually talked about it. He's a superb midfielder with that kind of discipline, of behavior, and not much to talk else about it, but he improves the team as being the genuine team player. He's that kind of guy who makes you win big things and gives an indirect lesson, I think, to this kind of clubs who have started signing. I'm not referring to PSG in particular, but also other clubs who think that by signing a great individual or individual who earns or who possesses the respect of all the football world, they will immediately win big things. Juventus did it with Cristiano Ronaldo 3 years ago, and ironically, they were crashed out by the Champions League by 3 underdogs in a row. So they were, I think, Ajax, Lyon, and Porto. So in N'Golo, you have the contrary of this idea. You sign a player who comes with a relatively low reputation, as he did in the summer 2016. He was a second choice back then, even for us. We wanted, I think, if you remember, we wanted Raja Nainggolan for Roma a lot in that summer due to Antonio Conte's connection with Italian players, Italian league. And I was really glad at the time that move didn't materialize, because I had watched N'Golo at Leicester, and he was absolutely instrumental in that pivot with Danny Drinkwater usually, and now he came to us in an upgraded version under Antonio Conte, and now he's maybe one of the top 3 or top 2 midfielders of the at
In
the
the world,
moment of our
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So that's all of it. He's, as I said, he improves the team by being exactly the archetype, the epitome, the example of that team player who sits down, who works very hard, and he's an example.
Yeah, thank you very much. Honestly, I must let you know I'm amazed at your knowledge of the game, because you went beyond the answer
Thank
and
you very much.
touched all the critical aspect of his game that helps make our team a better team, and that's good to know. And again, I appreciate that. I'd say that there's really the no, he's not suitable to just one particular formation. I think he can perform in all whatever formation the club plays. What do you think? Do you think he's most suitable for some particular formation or not, or do you think he's able to perform equally in whatever formation that the coach deploys?
Yeah, this is a particularly great question, because it leads to one of the most controversial debates that I have been involved in on Twitter during the years regarding Golo's position. And I feel that, as I said before, in reference to his physical shape, with a 60% or 70% fit N'Golo can do better, this is a fact, than the majority of Premier League or even other league center midfielders who may be 100% fit. Even from the tactical perspective, there is a similar viewpoint from me. If you play him in as a lone 6, I think he isn't that kind of guy who won't perform and he will struggle in that way that you say, no, I will immediately play him back in this number eight, more adventurous, more roaming role. No, he's a kind of guy, as I said, possesses a kind of positional discipline who could play even as a number six. He can play as in a midfield too by being the deeper center mid, or he can be the uh, higher the center midfielder who plays higher up the pitch and covers all those half spaces and bursts into the opponent's half or goes into the wide areas uh, in a two or in a three. This is not important, but as I said, his best position and the best tactical setup to get the perfect goal is the something similar to what we are following now. So he needs to be in a pivot with someone else behind him, and then he has the freedom to go forward and with a full consciousness that he will come back again when the team is has returned in that out of possession shape, because it's the in the instinctive nature of a player of his quality to do everything on and off the ball for the team. Uh, so I feel that every system who contains N'Golo in a two and him being the more advanced midfielder gets the best of him. As I said, not exactly through goals or assists, but through other stuff which have to do with his interception, with his tackling, with his the guard he provides, the ability to give forward passes and everything else. And on the contrary, if you play him in front of the defense and the long six, it's not that he will be he will be bad or he will be under average and people will talk about him for time that look at N'Golo, he isn't in the shape that he had been when Chelsea won the Premier League or this and that, but he will get limited and I think he won't show the best out of himself. And this was proved, I think, after Project Restart. He did fine in both first games when Frank Lampard deployed him in that position. Against Aston Villa, we won 2-1. And against Man City, it was we won 2-1 again, and N'Golo played in both those games as a number six. But then when we continued this kind of pattern in those the first 5 or 6 months of the season, just some days or weeks before Frank Lampard was sacked, then it was clear that it was a waste of time and energy to play N'Golo as a lone six. So I'm very delighted, and I got really delighted when I listened to that pre-Burnley press conference from Thomas Tuchel when he said that he's a sees N'Golo as a double six, and the facts have told us that he really thrives in this role and gives the best by being more advanced and tactically in a pivot with someone else next to him and specifically deeper than him.
Yeah, great answer there. Again, I like how you give details and detailed answer, and that's helpful to anybody that gets to watch the video because you do touch other aspects that most people overlook. And thank you very much for taking the time to answer that question. So going to the next question, how important do you think N'Golo Kante will be for the team going into the season?
I don't think there will be many changes in this regard to the previous seasons because he's, as I said, he's a player at his peak and knowing his energy and his desire to go forward and to improve even more, he will keep his untouchable status as untouchable as a player can be at a team like Chelsea, but he actually is. And I think in this regard, it won't change much. We have played only 4 official games so far, including the Super Cup game, and we have already seen the glimpses of how calm and composed and smooth the team is with N'Golo on the pitch, and that kind of that atmosphere of tension when N'Golo is out of it. The team did brilliantly with 10 men against Liverpool, and credit especially to Jorginho and Kovacic, who played in that position because N'Golo was injured and Kovacic came in. But as I said, even against Arsenal, we didn't have that kind of fluidity on the ball. Uh, we were better than them, of course, but compared to the period when Golo is on the pitch, he came on, I think, after the 70th minute, and we had that sense of calmness and a dominance. We could um, link passes in a smoother way, in a more proactive, proficient way, rather than when Golo was on the bench. So he will be fundamental. We have already seen it, and I think there is no discussion about it. He's a player that it's a luxury to have him in the team. Thomas Tuchel has said it um, more often than not publicly. He said it before the Champions League game, after the Champions League game, several times in press conferences, has reiterated his desire to have had N'Golo in every club he has been, and this means a lot. His praise from N'Golo as a character is another indicator that he's a player who can, even though he seems shy or not that kind of extrovert character who will be there to expect and to take care of the new signings or whatever. He still is that kind of guy who, through his presence, he can build every kind of social competence in the team and help maintain the harmony of the group through his own work, both on a professional level and also on a human one. So I think it will be the same, if not even more important than in the past few seasons.
Yeah, thank you very much again. I mean, his influence on the team goes beyond the football pitch. You know, he has good relationship with, you can say, everybody in the team. And I've never heard about him fighting with any of his teammates. You know, he's always cheerful, smiling, and yeah, that's good to know. And thank you very much for taking the time to answer that question. So now let's move to this aspect, which is his future. There's been talks years ago that PSG wants him, Madrid wants him. Now, what do you think? Do you think how long do you think he will still stay at Chelsea? I know he's dedicated to the club. He's never wanted to leave, and he's said that openly. He wants to stay. And so, how long do you think he will stay at the club? Do you think at any point that the club would want to let him go?
No, I think that he will stay with us, I think, for at least 4 or 5 more years, and I'm not exaggerating it because these are the reports. Um, if you check the everyone who checks the Twitter really can understand Golo's influence on the team. So the latest rumors, not just rumors for the sake of them, but genuine exclusives from reputable reporters are informing us that both parties, Golo and the club, are calm about the situation, and the new contract is on the table. He is the highest paid player at us. I think he's on 290,000 pounds a week. So this, but leaving the financial aspect aside, which is absolutely fundamental, I want um, to point out more the desire and the will of both parties to continue the collaboration, the relationship, because he's that kind of guy who you can't really replace in today's football. So for any price, I wouldn't sell him, and I think no one who wants the long term uh, the long term future of the club to be bright. Uh, no one can really put his commitment in discussion. So I'm very delighted that the reports are now that the club is patiently working on securing N'Golo a new contract, on tying him up for 4 or 5, maybe more years. I'm just assuming, I'm just supposing now, but I think he deserves it. He is that kind of player who you can't really judge for his age, but you judge him for his commitment, for his energy levels, his day after day dedication. If you don't know his age, you say that this guy is 23 or 24 and leave the injuries aside, which are another stuff. But he plays. Fortunately, he plays like a player in his early 20s or 24, 25, when the general um, amount of guys who thrive as youngsters reach their peak. I don't think Goro is past his peak. He's exactly as his peak, and we hope that his peak will 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 be in in that his peak will be following us and for years to come. So his future has to be here, and I don't think any reason why it shouldn't be here. Golo is that kind of that sort of professional guy who has never moaned, as you said, very cheerful, very polite, very has that very friendly in the group. So he's and his performances speak for themselves. So I think that we should tie him in a another long-term contract because he's really crucial to the team, and his future has to be here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Given how good N'Golo Kante is, I think managers will. I think, given how good he is in reading the game, managers will always find a way to get the best out of him. Because even when the legs are tiring, the brain still works actively. So, I mean, he's in that category of players that managers don't want to let go. Even in their late 30s, they still play them because they're able to read the game, and I believe N'Golo Kante is capable of playing for even 5 more years at a very high level. Instead, the running will reduce, that's for sure, because he's no longer in his 20s. Yeah, thank you very much. And that great response right there. It's important that we keep him at the club. His personality will go a long way for the younger players in the team, and it helps some measure of consistency in the team also. And I think he deserves to get a long-term contract, even though he's no longer in his 20s, because he's been a great professional. He's been a great servant to the club, and he never complains. Some players would have left the club by now if it wasn't N'Golo Kante and the kind of person
Yeah,
he is.
exactly this.
Yeah, yeah, so thank you very much, Helgi. It's been an absolute pleasure discussing N'Golo Kante's profile with you. And ladies and gentlemen, that is N'Golo Kante's profile. So get in the comments section and let us know. I and Helgi know if we miss anything. So Helgi, take some time plugging yourself. Tell the viewers or whoever that gets to watch this video who you are and social media where you have presence and how they can reach you.
So I'm Helgi. I'm a devoted Chelsea fan. Um, been supporting the club since December 2009, the season when we won the double under Carlo Ancelotti. Um, I'm I'm a Chelsea fan from Albania, which is um, the thing that makes it more impressive here is because there is a number of different mixed different cultures in terms of football watchers. There are a lot of Spanish fans, Italian fans. I am an can consider myself as an English fan, but the thing is that I have never been influenced by the outside pressure, if we can call it in this way, due to following my club, because I have a principle that you don't choose to be a football fan. You find a spiritual belonging to the team. You find a shelter, and this is how I am a Chelsea fan. This you can't really expect. Unfortunately, I am a fan of this wonderful club. I have had great memories over the years that not only I, all Chelsea fans around the world Um, and the thing is that even though time goes on, I am a totally, no, but not totally, but mostly a different guy than I was in my first years as a club. Still, the love for it and the commitment, the desire to be part of, to discuss about the team and the players, the stance of the club, and everything is due to the passion, to the commitment, to the desire, and to the belief that this team is the the best. Um, it's my second home.
Yeah,
Everything else is this. The memories are a lot. Um, when we won the Champions League in 2012, it was something. I was only 10 years old back then, but I have celebrated in immensely. I was it really there is no description about it. In 2016-17 season, it was also exceptional for me on a personal level, and in terms of the consistency, I believe that it's the most enjoyable season I have ever had as a Chelsea fan. And I pointed out in terms of the consistency, how we did from the beginning until the end, those 13 wins in a row. And I was really disappointed that it got a bit spoiled when we lost the FA Cup final back then. Um, the Europa League final is also a great memory, and as a matter of destiny, exactly 2 years after we won the Europa League, we won the Champions League. I was bursting to church, those celebrations that, you know, they're a kind of emotion that only football provides you with, only this club provides you with. And this gave me motivation for my personal stuff later, the academic stuff I had to follow just after the 29th of May when we won the Champions League. And it's a massive honor, massive privilege to be part of the Chelsea community all around the world, be part of this club, and hopefully we'll enjoy many more success supporting Chelsea.
yeah. Long may it continue, and I think as long as Roman Abramovich remains the club owner, I think we'll continue to win more trophies because he's very passionate. He loves the club, although it is business, but at the same time, you could argue it's not about the money for him right now. He wants success. He wants to see Chelsea play good football, and that's why he's often involved in the process. Again, Helgi, I am elated and I'm happy for your first appearance on Chelsea Perspective. And hopefully, we'll find time to record more, to present more content to the followers. And I believe we'll do quite a lot together. Thank you again for finding the time to come around so that we can present N'Golo Kante's profile to the fans. I can't thank you enough, but I say cheers.
Thank